Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shootaround. I am the only host of this podcast, and joining me, as is tradition, I guess I need to say my name, Rudy Saint-Claire. As is tradition, above me is the one and only Rusty Buckets and the legendary AlexHoops. Fellas, we got some real news for the first time in several months today. Damian Lillard is now a Milwaukee Buck.
Good God, does it feel good to have something happen, let alone something really big. It's interesting because this is something that would be massive news in any time of the year, but it feels like especially big because we've been sitting in a desert and finally we found an oasis. We have water again.
That we do. JH in the chat joining us live saying to make sure to drop a like. I would like everybody to follow suit who's here in the stream at all points of the podcast. Just smash that like button over and over again so more people can react along with us in the chat. And if you're listening at home, be sure to subscribe to also Rusty Buckets on YouTube so you can catch these streams live and join the chat yourself. Alex, are you just as excited as Jacob?
My cats are fighting right now. Hey,
they're excited.
Yeah. I'll kick you both out. Yeah. Yes, I'm very excited. I think it's absolutely hilarious seeing how everything ended up playing out after seeing all of the speculated trade packages from Miami. And then all it really took was like, yeah, here's an unprotected first, a couple pick swaps, Jrue Holiday, and Grayson Allen. And we'll get it done. It's like, oh, okay.
Fucking Grayson Allen. That was probably the highlight of your video, Jacob, today that we just published moments ago. Was you just being like, Grayson Allen? Yeah, whatever. Get rid of him. Who cares? That's my nemesis, Grayson Allen.
Yeah, I hate him too because what he did to Alex Caruso. I get you. And I not only did he do that to Alex Caruso, I then went to see him in Game 4 put up like 28 points in the playoffs, like multiple threes, and it was not a fun time.
Yeah. Personally, I'm not nearly as excited as you guys, not for any personal reason or anything like that, but because the season is over before it started. The Bucks basically just won the championship in September, you know? It's over. I don't have to watch the regular season.
I mean, how many years in a row have the Bucks had some sort of injury that ultimately did them in? You know, obviously, really their championship year, even when they won a championship, they made it through injuries. So you know, it's very well possible you get another bad thing and it doesn't happen. But that said, everybody healthy, I'm quite confident the Bucks are the best team in the East. I could see like the Nuggets beating them, for example, but is my mic wrong?
No, your mic is perfectly good.
I was afraid I was getting a message about it.
No. Yeah. I was going to poke fun at you for having the gas from scarfing down that ravioli right before the podcast and trying to fight it during that ramble, but you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to point it out passively like this.
All right. Well, someone else take the mic since I'm working through ravioli burps.
I personally think that the Bucks are pretty much a shoo-in for at least making the finals short of an injury.
Yeah.
Like you said in your video, the pick and roll between Giannis and Dame is probably going to be something that's basically unstoppable.
What do you do?
Right. Not to mention like how high they can run the pick and roll effectively,
right?
With, like Damian's signature 30-foot jumpers.
Yeah,
like
the thing
Giannis is going to be able to get up to full speed going to the rack.
The thing about the pick and roll is like when you're defending it, unless you just have crazy good defenders, you pretty much have to concede something. You kind of just have to pick what poison you want to allow to happen to shut off the worst option. But basically the main two options are you give Dame a pull-up or you give Giannis a roll, and both of those are devastating scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm assuming, Alex, that you're pretty happy that Chris Middleton didn't get tacked onto this deal.
I'm thrilled.
That's your boy.
I was honestly, that was my favorite aspect of this trade was like, yes, Chris is going to get to like
Chris is going
just
to get
chill,
another championship.
take spot up threes, like occasionally lead the offense when Dame is on the bench. Like it's going to be sick.
Yeah. That's the thing with the Bucks for years has just been like Chris Middleton is good enough to be the best shot creator on a championship team because that happened. But is he good enough to confidently be that all the time? Maybe not as much. Damian Lillard 100%. So now Chris Middleton doesn't really have that pressure of needing to be the only dude who can create a shot in the half court half the time when Giannis obviously doesn't really have that skill set and Jrue Holiday is being Jrue Holiday in the postseason. So, being officially a secondary shot creator kind of liberates him and also takes a lot of potential blame off of him.
Yeah, another thing that people got to realize, and for the most part, everyone seems to understand, like, yes, losing Jrue is a necessary evil of getting Dame. It's like, it's worth it, but yes, you are giving up a theoretically very, very, very good player. Not theoretically, he is a very, very good player. Right. But those playoff numbers from last playoff series against the Heat, he was horrible, like genuinely horrible. And not just like the numbers, like, yeah, the box score is what it is. He shot 28.6% from three, 40% from the field. It was rough. But also, if you watch that series, he was getting abused on defense by Jimmy Butler. And like, if Jrue Holiday is not playing defense for you and his shot's not falling, then what's he on the floor for? Yeah, you can do a little bit of passing, but like, my goodness, that's like the thing that they needed him to do is like make your shots, play defense, and guard the best player on the other team. And he wasn't able to do that.
To give him a little bit of leeway, I don't think Kawhi and Scottie Pippen's child on steroids could have stopped Jimmy Butler in that series. But yeah. I also just have kind of got this feeling for a bit, and maybe Dylan Brooks is the one that is, bringing this out of me.
I gotta kick a cat out. I'm sorry.
Got you. I think personally that dudes who are just excellent defenders, people kind of just treat that as like a shoe-in that you're like a very good and key rotation player, where I'm like, you need to be competent enough offensively. And when the playoffs come around, Jrue Holiday is rarely anything but a negative on offense in the postseason. And like, even when they won it, he was still consistently a problem for them. Like, that's the thing that I think that gets underemphasized about Milwaukee's title, because people treat it like you won the championship, therefore everything's perfect. But they kind of fucking stumbled their way into that title through a lot of very significant ups, but a lot of significant downs. And very often the reason why they just completely shit their pants in a game that they ultimately ended up winning the series was because Jrue Holiday fucking sucked. And, having just offense is more important than defense. It just is. And the Bucks can be still an electrifying, excellent defense, even without Jrue Holiday, and have a way, 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 way better offense having Dame in place of Jrue.
I do think that it's important to note that with a guy like Jrue Holiday, who is, if he's not hitting his shots and is just an average playmaker, even being a good defender, you can scheme around that. You can avoid Jrue Holiday on offense, basically, even if he's just clamping guys down. And so having a guy like Dame, who's just like kind of unstoppable on offense, is just like infinitely more valuable. I used to be one of these people who believed that the game was 50-50, two ways. You got your offense and your defense, and both are equally weighted in the equation of how good dudes are. But as I've watched basketball more and more growing up and stuff, I've realized that the ability to put the ball in the basket is just at least twice as valuable. I mean, at least that's my opinion.
I mean, if that was the case, like, Tony Allen is as good as Stephen Curry.
Hey, I didn't say it.
Yeah. No. Defense is a great like floor ability to really hang your hat on to make sure you're still an NBA player. It's not as difficult as, being Stephen Curry, as an extreme example. but being Damian Lillard is something that, only Dame or Steph could really do. So you have that outlier thing. Ultimately, you can get perimeter defense. And if you still have Giannis and Brook in the paint, I still feel good about my defense being one of the best in the NBA, even without Jrue on the perimeter.
I think it's a shame that Javon Carter's not on this roster.
Yeah. I actually did think about that, where I was like, he would have been great.
Where did he go? Because he wasn't in the trade, right?
He's on the Bulls, baby.
Oh,
He's
that's
on
right.
the Bulls.
You got Javon.
I really liked the two major signings the Bulls made this offseason for a different team. Like, for the right team, Javon Carter and Torrey Craig are two really good, guys you can get for $5 to $8 million a year. Those are both perfect in that ballpark. But let's not talk about the Bulls. No one gives a shit, nor I don't either.
Yeah. Alex, I cut you off on accident. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, I just I'm trying to think now. I can't remember.
We kind of went on a long tangent.
A full 20 seconds has passed. That's my bad.
Oh well, it's gone. Yeah, the moment's gone. Oh well.
Someone in the chat said, "Is there any argument against Dame and Giannis being the best duo in the league right now, or do we need to see them play together first?"
I mean, who could even compare? Do you want to say Jokic and Murray? Because Jokic is better than Giannis, but not by a significant degree. And obviously Dame is much better than Jamal Murray. So I wouldn't really go with that one. I don't think Kevin Durant and Devin Booker's abilities benefit each other enough. That's something I always talk about with duos is I don't think how we should view duos should be as simple as, two very good players on the same team. It's how do those guys' abilities interact with each other? What's their symbiotic relationship? And Dame and Giannis, for everything Dame does good, Giannis really doesn't. For everything that Dame does bad, Giannis really does, and obviously vice versa. I don't think Devin Booker and KD doing the same thing, just taking turns, is quite the same thing. So AD and LeBron, probably not anymore. Am I missing an obvious one? Not the Jays.
No, I think they're probably. I think it's, in theory, Dame and Giannis. Obviously, we're gonna have to see how it plays out on the court. It's hard to imagine it's not gonna be amazing, but yeah, I think Jokic and Murray is really the only one that, if you were gonna put up a fight arguing this, not in favor of Dame and Giannis, then the only duo that you could argue is Jokic and Murray.
Yeah, you say it's hard to imagine it not working. I would border on impossible. I don't know if there's a world where that doesn't work unless one of them's just breaks both of their legs in the middle of the season. There's just no way that does not work out positively, at least between those two. I'm interested, what do we think about Milwaukee's depth? Because they definitely thinned out slightly. They weren't exactly a deep team to begin with.
This is what I was going to say. You just reminded me. We were talking about whether or not they're a shoo-in for the championship now, or at least the finals. The depth on that team really, 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 really scares me. It's bad. If you look at the roster right now, it's pretty bad. A lot of it hinges on, can they get some good stuff out of a guy like Marjon Beauchamp? Is Malik Beasley going to be able to actually have a positive impact and not just be a streaky shooter like he kind of always has been? And then Brook Lopez, who's 35 now, he had a DPOY level season last year. Is he still going to be that this year? Because he is getting older. How quickly does age start to catch up? And I know we can sit here and say all day, we can sit here and say, in a vacuum without injuries, yeah, they're probably the favorites to at least come out of the East. But, injuries do happen no matter what. And that's an old roster. It's still a pretty old roster. Even with the Dame's not young anymore. I mean, yeah. He's been more and more prone to injury as his career has gone on. So, I don't know. I yes, in theory, they should be able to come out of the East, but still, it's like I'd still be nervous about the injury bug.
Yeah, I think the problem is like if Dame or Giannis go out, I think it's going to be real hard to win that game. If it's against the right opponent, obviously. Like you can just Giannis or just Dame your way through like the Sixers, I guess, but you're not going to be able to pull that off versus the Celtics and maybe the Heat. Although we'll talk about the Heat a bit later.
We can talk about them right now. I think the Heat. I think people are getting like people saw what they did last offseason or not offseason. People saw what they did last playoffs, and like I need people to understand what the Heat did in the playoffs as far as like a 3-point shooting variance perspective goes. They played great. Don't get me wrong. They pushed all the right buttons. They did all the right things that they needed to put them in a position to win every series. That being said, in terms of their 3-point shooting variance, I'm not saying they got lucky, but variance was on their side. And like, my goodness, the chances of that happening again, not saying that they can't still be a good 3-point shooting team. The chances of them having literally one of the greatest 3-point shooting performances in terms of catch and shoot threes from like an entire roster in NBA history, the chances of that happening again are pretty small. And honestly, like, Gabe Vincent and Max Strus were pretty important to that team's success throughout that playoff run. They lost them. I get that they brought in like Josh Richardson and stuff. They're going to have guys like Orlando Robinson. Who's the other guy?
Haywood Highsmith.
Haywood Highsmith. He's going to be like probably having an increased role. Like they did get some guys to try and help out a little bit, but you know, this team is not as good as last year's team. And again, when you're talking about last year's team, the Heat were the 7th seed and won 44 games. Like, let's not act like they were some top 4 seed last year. They were the 7th seed.
Yeah, the fact they weren't was kind of a big part of it. Not to mention, like, literally the Bulls falling apart in the fourth quarter of a play-in game is the only reason why they even made the playoffs to begin with. Like,
I forgot about the play-in element to their playoff run. That's
like
crazy.
Literally, the Bulls were, I believe, they were leading going into the fourth quarter, and then they blew it because they're the Bulls. But and I know that that's necessarily a variable to bet against. That probably happens more times than it doesn't. But either way, I think also getting out of the first round, that was the biggest challenge for them ultimately. Like that Bucks team was their biggest threat, and they got them on a back foot. They got them with Giannis missing decent chunks of time and not necessarily looking his best when he was there. I think Chris Middleton was good in that series, but he was still going into it like with some question marks just because of his injury stuff. Jrue Holiday, as you mentioned, completely,
outside of Giannis.
Yeah, Jrue Holiday completely shit his pants. And it's like it took all of that happening plus Jimmy Butler ascending into another reality for them to. That's why I say, like, I'm not even mad at Jrue for getting cooked by Jimmy, who wasn't getting cooked by Jimmy the way he was going. But yeah, like it was a very outlier thing. That's the whole point of it being like a Cinderella run, or everyone talking about how crazy it is that they made the finals to begin with. It's like, yeah, if we all agree it's crazy that they're here, why do we expect it to be just replicated automatically? And the thing is, like, they ran into the Bucks as their biggest threat last year. Now they have Damian Lillard. So ironically, by not trading for Dame, you now have to deal with Dame.
Yeah, I think Miami kind of like I think they underestimated like how much Dame would have helped them and like how like worth it would have been, because I just really don't see a world where they're able to get by just doing the like get scrappy undrafted guys and like get some outlier contributions from some role players that we normally don't get like major contributions from, and just like bet on the 3-point shooting luck and like Jimmy ascending to Michael Jordan levels. Like you can't get away with betting. Like they almost blew a 3-0 lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I get that their first round series was insanely good, and I still think the Heat as an organization, as a team, they're still a very, very good team. But when you look at the heaviest hitters in the Eastern Conference right now, like they're not better than Milwaukee. They're not better than Boston. Better than Philly, maybe. I mean, Philly's another team that we can look at and be like, they might fall off a cliff.
I would say they're better than Philly, probably. But,
right, yeah.
You know, it depends if James Harden's going to buy in, but let's be real, he definitely won't. Rudy, can you do me a favor since we're talking about the Heat? Can you find that clip of Jimmy Butler talking about the trade? Because he seemed very salty to me.
Oh, yeah, he said that the Bucks need to be investigated for tampering, which doesn't
like,
even make sense.
It's like his brother.
Dame's on a long-term contract, and like it's trade negotiations. Like, what could have possibly, unless they were circumventing the cap, which isn't even, that's not even like
that's
tampering.
Not tampering.
That's a whole different thing.
It's just another rule being broken. And it's like, okay, what did they do that's tampering that Miami didn't do? That's the thing that I'm thinking about.
Wasn't Kyle Lowry spotted like watching a game with Chauncey Billups? Wouldn't that be tampering? You know,
I have no idea.
I think tampering really only like applies when you're a free agent.
And what I've been saying forever is I don't fucking care about tampering. I think you should be able to tamper. talk to your employer. You should be able to talk to other employers. That's just the way that it works. Like
it's like you should be allowed to talk about your wages at work. It's like a protected constitutional right. NBA players should be allowed to talk about teaming up.
Guys, I'm with all the workers' rights stuff. I'm not about to let you guys turn tampering into a workers' rights thing. Tampering is not. No, there are so many ways to get unfair advantages through tampering. Tampering is a necessary part of the NBA. I support workers' rights, but you guys are not about to turn tampering into a workers' rights thing and comparing it to talking about your wages at work.
I don't know.
No, you're right. I'm just joking. I'm joking.
I didn't bring up the wages thing. I was just saying, I think you should be able to talk to anybody. Fuck the rules.
I'll start looking for that clip now.
I mean, I guess we kind of just talked about it. It doesn't really matter anymore. But yeah. So yeah, Miami's kind of fucked. I like the Josh Richardson addition, as you mentioned, but like specifically 3-point shooting ultimately is what helped them so much. And Gabe Vincent and Max Strus were very big parts of that. I was going to suggest, although this obviously is pretty antithetical to the 3-point shooting thing, what if ironically Miami went and got Jrue Holiday?
Yeah, someone said it in the chat. Actually, I started for later. It's right here. It's Nick Miller, longtime chatter.
Now at that point,
yeah, whatever. Shout out to Nick
from New Girl.
At that point, you have officially committed fuck defense or fuck offense, but score on Jrue, Jimmy, and Bam. Good luck.
I'm also just
here's a fun question.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, we should address the super chat because shout out to them. And then I'll say what I was going to say.
Francisco C gave us 5 and said, "Do you think this puts pressure on Philly to get its shit together, or do you think the train is already off the rails?"
I think the train is off the rails. I think James Harden is, if he does play, he's going to make a problem. He's going to get moved, and then Joel Embiid is going to be like, "Yeah, there ain't shit here. Sorry, the process is over. Send me to New York or wherever." I don't think that's going to go well for them at all.
I still maintain that it is in Philly's best interest to just let Harden, like, even if he makes things a problem, even if like you're just not playing him, I still think it's in their best interest to just let him walk instead of like rushing into a deal, because they're going to clear so much cap space and like could actually make a run at like a Siakam or something like that. Like they could do a lot this offseason if they just let Harden walk.
Yeah, you're going to have
or trade him for expiring deals.
Yeah, here's the problem. The only problem with that is like it's pretty commonplace for like players, especially like superstar players, not to really give a shit about that kind of stuff. Be like, I'm not going to wait around for you to hypothetically sign someone next offseason. So really, it would just come down to Joel Embiid's patience in that regard. I think there were even comments from this offseason that implied that like he would be okay playing somewhere outside of Philly, which was like the first time he was ever saying shit like that.
I thought the most recent thing said that he was like cool with everything that's happening right now, and he's like, I'm not like gonna.
That's
I'm
some
not
real
trying
like
to ask out or anything.
that's some real like crying behind the mask shit right there. I'm really thrilled with what's happening right now.
Point being, if they can
Uh-huh.
convince Joel Embiid to stay and just
Mhm.
like suffer through it, then
Mhm.
they're gonna be a lot better off because
Yeah.
of it.
I also am like a big believer in Tyrese Maxey. I think Tyrese Maxey can be really, really, really good, like perennial all-star good. And I'm hoping that with James out of the picture, he can get to be like a 25 point per game guy. And if just you get if you just like, get a couple of good pieces around that and get like another star tier player in free agency, then yeah, they can absolutely be right back in it. But at least for this year, I have no fear of Philadelphia, and neither does any of the contenders in the East, I don't think.
Well,
Yeah, I
thank
would
you,
agree with that.
Francisco, for your
Mhm.
contribution to the podcast, both in topic
you.
and in money. People have been asking for the package on screen. I believe at least a couple of people in chat. So I figured I'd go ahead and throw this on here. The exact trade details.
Mhm.
Did we actually say it out loud at any point in the podcast yet? I don't think we have. The Bucks are receiving Damian Lillard. The Suns are receiving Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. The Blazers get Jrue Holiday, likely to be moved. DeAndre Ayton, someone I've never heard of in my life.
Yeah.
A
Same.
unprotected first-round pick.
Wow.
in
Is that
2029.
the first all three of us haven't heard of a player? Because I don't think that's ever happened. I think always one of us knew.
Yeah, probably. As well as
that's
two
crazy.
pick swaps. So
Now those draft picks, I want to talk about. I guess we can talk about really Blazers package here. Those draft swaps could be pretty decent. It really depends on, are we that confident that Dame and Giannis are still in Milwaukee in 2029 and 2030? It's definitely very well possible for sure. But it's also very well possible not. And it's also very well possible if the Blazers are at least confident in their future rebuild that they would probably be, more towards like being on the come up by that time period. So it's, by 2029, by 2030, maybe the Blazers are a much better team than the Bucks, and that swap really pays off. That said, you did trade your franchise player for draft picks 5 years from now. So that kind of hurts.
I mean, that's normally how it goes. That's how that worked for the Thunder when they traded Paul George. They got draft picks years down the road.
Right, but
I know they had more immediate picks as well.
Right,
but like,
that's what I'm saying.
I understand in a trade like this, it makes sense, especially considering they got Ayton in return. They got Jrue Holiday, who they're probably going to flip for more assets, likely picks. The player who I've never heard of. He probably was just
probably like a second
filler.
round pick or something.
Yeah. But point being, I don't mind the time frame of these picks that much because like if you look at when these picks are going to convey, it's when Dame's going to be 39 years old.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right. So like
Chris
ultimately
is going to be probably out of the league at that point. I love Chris, but like
ultimately it's like those are the best picks they were getting out of a Dame deal. It's just, you're going to have to wait a little bit. Also, like Jrue Holiday, I imagine you can get at least 2 first-round picks out of Jrue Holiday.
Really?
Or like a young player. I mean, it depends.
We were just shitting all over him.
Not like super. He's still good, especially in the regular season. Like he had like arguably his best season last year. It is worth mentioning that I think Jrue said he wants to retire at the end of his contract, so he has this season and next season until retirement. Who knows if he'll actually hold that up when it comes time to get potentially paid again. But he will definitely garner 2 solid-ish first-round picks. Nothing like crazy for sure, but I do think there's a team out there. I think I've seen someone suggest the Celtics, Jrue Holiday to the Celtics, which I think if you like paired Malcolm Brogdon's salary with someone else, you could actually get that done. but that would definitely be interesting. Talk about those two clashing in the playoffs. Jrue Holiday on the Celtics against the Bucks. That'd be very interesting. They obviously have quite a bit of history against each other. Well, I guess Alex is looking something up. I do want to get up on my soapbox about DeAndre Ayton because I have felt for the longest time that Phoenix has just not given him the proper opportunity, and Portland, he should get that opportunity. And I'm really excited to see. I think he has a very long-term future with the Blazers, and their guard duo of the future is really interesting. They're not going to be good this year, but like 3 years from now, Scoot Henderson's starting to reach like true all-star potential. Anthony Simons is there. DeAndre Ayton is like a 20-10 big man, which I think is very well possible. They've got the foundations of a pretty solid rebuild here. And my initial thought was that the Miami Heat offer would have been better. But honestly, like given what you can get for Jrue, given the future pick swaps and the just straight up pick, and given how good I think DeAndre Ayton can be for them long term, I actually think they probably got about as good as a deal as they realistically were going to here.
Yeah, the DeAndre Ayton element to this trade is definitely a underrated aspect for what little I have got to see on Twitter and whatnot, because like you said, he is a young guy who has not really gotten a fair shake out in Phoenix. Do you think that, like you said, 3 years down the line, I'll even stretch it out to 4, by the time it's time for Scoot to be on his second contract, do you think him and DeAndre Ayton are going to be one of the best duos in the league? Are you that high on Ayton, or are you more like this is a solid foundation?
I don't think Ayton will necessarily be that much better than Simons would be, but I do think both of those guys will be very good, probably like fringe all-star tier, like definitely not perennial all-star tier, but like you get the, maybe they win 50 something games in the right year and you get 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think Scoot Henderson is going to be miles better than DeAndre Ayton, no matter how good Ayton pans out. I think Scoot is, if Victor Wembanyama wasn't in this draft, he was the undisputed number 1 overall pick for sure. And it's looked that way for a long time too. Scoot is the real deal. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was like significantly better than Darius Garland by his sophomore season. Like
what's with the Darius Garland slander?
I didn't want to say John Morant, so I picked the next best point guard.
You pick someone better. I'm just kidding.
I
just wanted to piss. I just wanted
the guy who can shoot.
I just wanted to piss you off.
They're right there next to each other.
I don't think he'll be that good by year 2. That's a little bit of a stretch, I'd say. But
perhaps.
Yeah.
I want to address Ryan Wise Fiverr. He gave us 5 Canadian dollaroos. Always great seeing you guys. Always great to see you too, Ryan. I wish the 76ers can somehow get Jrue. That wouldn't be a bad fit. Wouldn't be a bad fit at all.
It'd be cool for him to return to the team that he started his career on, made his first All-Star team on.
They would have no table setter on offense, though. That would just be atrocious. Like, their half-court offense would be Embiid.
Is Jrue not the table setter?
Jrue
is table setter not a playmaker?
Yeah, Jrue is like an okay playmaker. In terms of like point guards and someone you want facilitating your offense all the time, like
he's definitely secondary.
Compared to Harden, like they need someone who can facilitate on a level that I don't think Jrue would be able to do.
Also, like that would completely ruin all that off-season talk because his contract, I'm pretty sure, leads into that and would take a huge chunk of the salary away that they could spend on somebody else. So,
what are the odds that Jrue gets bought out? Just because he is
pretty fucking minimal. I'm pretty certain you can find somebody that will give you like another contract and a first round pick at the bare minimum. You can get that.
Maybe I'm really showing how much I haven't been playing 2K, my NBA most recent years lately, because I do not just have like contracts memorized around the league, but like who's a garbage contract that the Blazers could take on for Jrue Holiday?
It's not necessarily has to be a garbage contract, but just a contract that fills that salary. What does Jrue Holiday make?
He's making
year?
36 million. I think we're underestimating. He's making 36 million. That's a big contract.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, if I just looked around, I'm sure I could find it. I'm just not in the mood. I definitely think Jrue Holiday. They'll find a way to trade him for something. Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, cap math aside, what are some of our top destinations for Jrue Holiday? Let's go ahead and get that out of the way while it's kind of on my mind. It was originally slated to be toward the end of the pod because it's a little bit more boring compared to the rest of the stuff here. But let's just knock it out. We're 35 minutes in. I think it's safe to talk about Jrue Holiday trade destinations.
How much does Al Horford and Al Horford's money plus Malcolm Brogdon's money?
Doesn't work. You need four. The only thing that I was over here trying to figure that out. The only thing that does work, and I don't see Boston doing this, is Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams.
Oh yeah, no way. And Robert Williams is constantly crippled in the postseason, so maybe they could justify it to themselves because of that. But he's just too good when he is healthy for me to think they would do that.
RA said that Ben Simmons to the Blazers, baby. That makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Fuck it. Why not?
No, it doesn't.
There's no reason for us to be talking about Ben Simmons on this episode.
Yes, correct. Get that shit out of here.
A lot of people saying something along the lines of what Black. I always say Chihuahua, but that's just not what that says when I read this name. But they're a longtime chatter said, fuck it.
Uchi.
Lowry for a pick for Jrue.
I love the double fuck it.
Right.
No, I think they'd have to throw someone else in.
It's like $7 million off.
It probably, I mean, maybe Duncan.
I mean, it doesn't need to be precise, right? It's like
Duncan's making $18 million. So.
Yeah. It has to be pretty close to precise. I mean, Portland probably can take on extra salary, but the Heat can't take on extra salary.
Yeah. Ethan Simpson says Jrue to the Clippers. How do we feel about that? Is that like a
that would
like
be
their
cool.
cap doesn't really work, right? Like they don't have a disposable contract though.
They have disposable contracts.
Might.
They definitely. I mean, if you put Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, and Norman Powell together, I think that gets you to 36. I think it gets you a little beyond that even.
I forgot Norman Powell made decent money. Wasn't he a Blazer?
Yes.
Okay.
It was stupid that he was a Blazer to begin with because they traded Gary Trent Jr. for him, who was younger.
That's right. Yeah, and arguably better.
Yeah, similar tier.
Yeah. Very much a wash of a difference.
Any way of putting that money together there, Alex?
I'm working on it. I think since they're over the second apron, it literally has to be exact in terms of the money working. Like when I say exact, it's like within plus or minus a incredibly small amount of money. So I'll sit over here and try to make it work. But it would be really, really tough.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, I guess while Alex is cooking up trades, I guess we can move on to what the Phoenix Suns got out of this. Not gonna lie, I am not feeling this like I know some people are feeling it, because Yusuf Nurkic is a cooked product as far as I can tell. I wouldn't mind him as my backup center today, but starting center, he's much worse than DeAndre. And I feel like people got caught up in the DeAndre potentially having beef with their coach and not liking Phoenix and all that. And the fact that he's obviously been really inconsistent and sometimes just as I had a build in 2K23 that people that Connor dubbed 3-cone, friend of the show, dubbed a soft-handed weenie. And sometimes DeAndre Ayton can be a soft-handed weenie, but he can also be a pretty solid center 9 times out of 10. And Yusuf Nurkic isn't even going to be on the floor like 4 times out of 10 minimum. I think that makes, like, if Yusuf is out, like, what is their center option at that point? Like, they're pretty much just going to be going small ball with KD. Is that what you want going into a postseason? I sure as shit don't think it is.
A lot of people in the chat are saying that Jokic owns Nurkic, not just because he took his job as the Nuggets starter, but I suppose also because of their matchup history. I'm not intimately familiar with it, but I trust the chat.
Yeah, like technically they got more depth out of this. there's more like Nazir Little and Grayson Allen can both be rotation guys for them. I don't know really shit about Keon Johnson, but probably not in a playoff rotation. If Nazir Little hits his open threes, he's actually a pretty solid pickup for them just because he's a big defensive forward. Grayson Allen can obviously be a catch and shoot guy, but I don't think the trade-off of getting a much worse center who is much more injury prone is worth 2 decent backups.
I have made the math on the Clippers trading for Jrue Holiday work. So the Clippers would receive, and this is just financials. This is not taking into account any picks. This is just from a money perspective. It would almost certainly have to be Jrue Holiday going to the Clippers in exchange for Norm Powell, Marcus Morris Sr., and Brandon Boston. Now, alternatively, they don't have to trade Brandon Boston, but it would have to be one of the other players on their roster making 1.8, 1.9 million. And the only other two, Kenyon Martin, who is like not trade eligible, I don't think.
He's probably better than Boston too, right?
Honestly, though, I feel like
he has a team option, so they would have to basically accept his team option, which I think they did, but then trade him. But they're not trading him. They would trade probably one of their young guys. But yeah, point being, it works, but they would likely have to give up picks that they don't really have to get.
Also, like, I feel like they feel decent about Russ and Jrue on the floor together. I even just thinking about it makes me physically sick.
Really?
Yes.
You don't like the idea of Russ
Jrue Holiday
kicking out to Jrue in the corner?
Do you know how bad of a 3-point shooter Jrue often is? Like, sometimes he figures it out, but like there's other games where it's like, Jrue, who the fuck do you think you are taking step back threes, man?
Yeah.
Like, his catch and shoot numbers are probably acceptable.
Fit aside, I do think that it would be somewhat of a lateral move to give up the Morris twin for Jrue, but I understand that they do have a little bit of a hole at backup point guard. In terms of fit on that team, I understand that Jrue is better, but like, I think they love the Morris twin they have, right?
No,
it's Marcus, right?
No, they don't, and the Clippers fan base sure as shit doesn't.
Okay.
It's not.
What can I say? I'm not part of Clipper Nation.
That's perfectly valid. But yeah, I guess the Clippers are interesting, but I think they feel good enough about Jrue or about Russ. The Heat could get in on that. The Celtics probably can't make that happen. What about teams in the West? Do we think the Nuggets could make this happen? I don't think they have the contracts. They don't have the contracts they can throw around.
Yeah,
and the people that are good are paid, and the people that are bad are not.
Maybe I'm tripping, but it feels like it's more likely than we suspected 5 minutes ago that Jrue is going to be in the buyout market after the trade deadline because of his massive contract and how difficult it makes things.
36 is not that impossible to move.
It's not, especially in the modern NBA, but it's just a matter of, getting all the ducks in the row.
Not to mention how often do we talk about a contract being impossible being impossible to trade a contract, and then that contract gets traded. Like, Jrue is fairly reasonable, especially because it's 2 years.
Yeah, well, if anyone in the chat wants to see these trade details again, I'll put them back on screen. I'll probably put them back on screen periodically when we need to reference it. But
so I want to get further thoughts from you guys about the Suns side of this deal. What do you guys think?
I think this is fantastic for them. People are looking, and I tweeted about this. People are looking at this trade for them too much like, oh, they traded Ayton and now they're replacing Ayton with Nurkic, and it's like, yeah, but that's not really the point of the trade. You can look at it. Yes, they got Ayton, they got Nurkic. Like, that's not great, but he still does some stuff fine. It's not like he does, enough to really like anchor a defense or anything like that. He's also more of a theoretical floor spacer than he is like actually being able to do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but does that really matter that much when you have the players that they have? Like, also considering everyone else that they got in the trade are just further depth pieces, guys like Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, like those are good players who will be able to contribute in some capacity, even if it's just as an injury replacement for a temporary stretch of time. It's like, yeah, this team that was definitely going to need depth almost more than anything now has a pretty decent amount of depth on their team, considering every change that they've had to undergo throughout the course of this offseason so far. It's like they've done the stuff that they probably had to do in order to make the Bradley Beal trade be something that actually made sense in the long run.
If you can guarantee me Nurkic is going to be there for them in the postseason, then it's fine enough, I would say. But like, who is their starting center if Nurkic is gone? Did they keep Bismack Biyombo? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, how much does that even matter? Like, if your main like game closing lineup is like more of a small ball lineup with KD at the 5, like, does it really matter who's your starting center? Like, yeah, maybe Nurkic is the guy who is playing the most center minutes, but I think this team is going to end up running a ton of small ball, and there's still a chance to me that they go out and get another center to plug some holes a little bit. Like,
I
think Biyombo's still on the team. It's not like he's great, but again, it's like they have depth everywhere else, and they're going to be running a ton of small ball anyways, so the idea that Nurkic being their starting center somehow just derails things for them, I can't get behind that. It doesn't make sense. I think the Suns definitely got better from this trade.
I don't know. Maybe I just think higher of DeAndre Ayton than you do.
Oh, I think so high of DeAndre Ayton. It's just I don't think them losing him, a guy that they were underutilizing anyways, in favor of going this direction. I don't think losing Ayton is somehow like gonna make them worse, especially when you look at all the players they got back. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't feel like the players they got back are like quality enough role players. Like, technically they're reaching the threshold of like checking a box, and that's what, you know, Phoenix has needed to do, is check those boxes. But like, ultimately, I feel like I would rather have a center I feel a lot better about than, you know, Nasir Little and Grayson Allen. That's me personally.
They also have Jrue Eubanks, who's like not great, but you know,
Eubanks ain't
not
bad.
Ideal.
Eubanks ain't the worst.
I could imagine a scenario where, just for fun, I don't say it's likely, but I could imagine a world where Jrue Eubanks has one great playoff game defensively or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not a horrible player, apparently. You know, he was horrible a few years ago, but not so much anymore, I guess.
He can be survivable. If the plan for the Suns is to go small, I got bad news for them. It's not going to work towards an actual title, and that's what they're aiming for here. So, I mean, I don't think, to be fair, I don't think there was a move that Phoenix was making that was going to make them better than the Nuggets from where they were after the Bradley Beal trade. But I don't know. I feel like you also probably, maybe I'm wrong, because obviously they probably shopped him around for a while, but I feel like you could have done a little bit better for DeAndre Ayton than that.
I think it ended up being a situation, and this is speculation. I don't have any information on this. I think teams were pretty content with like, we'll just get Ayton on the free agent market down the road. Like, there's no need to trade anything for him now.
So I guess that makes their starting lineup Beal and Booker, Durant, and then who's the next forward in that starting lineup? Would it be Nasir Little?
Yuta Watanabe, I say.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. I think they might go with Nasir though, just because he's like the defensive guy.
Bates Diop.
Yeah. Honestly, though, the fact that we're talking about
Chimezie Metu, like, who's a decent player.
Yeah.
Like I really don't think their big depth is that bad. I seriously with a
Chimezie
roster
Metu's
like
not
that,
bad.
with like a 3-headed monster of Beal, Booker, and Durant, like you just need someone who can stand there and just like hold their own.
Yeah, I can see.
It's not like
I
they're
can
going to be
see that.
scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chimezie Metu and Eubanks. I guess I didn't know enough about that roster because I don't hate that. I mean, it's still not ideal for sure to be going into a playoff setting where potentially those guys are your starters. But if they're your starter for a couple of playoff games and Nurkic is there for the other ones, it's definitely not terrible. I don't like banking on small ball. That's for sure. I don't think that's going to work out in their favor. They can probably score a shitload of points off of it, but they're not going to defend a thing.
I think more importantly than having small ball is just the fact that they have flexibility. Like they have their roster is so deep that they have the ability to basically do whatever they want. Some stuff they'll be better at than other things, but most importantly is like they have a lot of different players who can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, I agree with that because like if they have enough guys who conceivably can be NBA like playoff rotation guys that like you'll figure it out as the season goes along who really is and who really isn't, and you can like hopefully solidify at least like an 8-man rotation going into the postseason. So that's I don't hate it, but I'm not thrilled about it either. But Phoenix is probably in a position where you really can't get a thrilled about it trade. So maybe I'm just being a little too harsh.
The last component of the trade for the Suns is this young fellow named Keon Johnson. The only thing I noticed with him, I'm not familiar, but I took a look at his stats right quick, is that his free throw percentage kind of fell off a cliff. He went from 80% his rookie season to 65% last season. So
I mean, how much is he playing is really how much that affects.
He played like half the season with a reasonable amount of minutes for the sample to be there, I think.
He was attempting one free throw a game.
Yeah.
40 games. So he took 40 free throws basically.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to buy too much into that sample size.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, what does he do? I don't know anything about him personally. Do you know, Alex?
I believe he's a pretty good defender. I could be wrong. I might be thinking of someone else, but I'm pretty sure he's like a really good defender. Or has the potential to be a really good defender. He's super young. He's 21 years old, and he's in his, going into his 3rd season. So. What's
his 3-ball numbers look like?
Career 34% so far. So, not
right.
bad. I mean, he's taken 181 over the course of his career.
It's a very small sample, but it's, at least we're starting off on something solid enough, solid ground.
But to go back to
181, that's like
spread out over a few years. It's a little small.
NBA. Well, it's over the course of 2 years.
Yeah. It's not nothing for sure.
It's multiple seasons. It's not like he did that in one 40 game stretch over the course of 2 seasons. I mean, he's played a significant number of NBA minutes at this point to where you can look at sample sizes and be like, okay, yes, there is volume that you can start to infer things.
Yeah. I think it's solid. I think this trade is solid for them, but I feel like ultimately Nurkic is going to be gone, and it's going to be like, well, you're just getting railed inside constantly. But they might have been susceptible to that regardless.
I mean, if they do have Nurkic, though, and let's say that he doesn't even play big minutes, if him and Biyombo each play 20 minutes a game, and then you got 8 minutes of Eubanks and fucking Kevin Durant at center or whatever, that's not horrible. Especially like Alex said earlier, when their primary job is to just not be a cone on defense and to not worry about scoring the ball. Like, the Suns roster construction was probably the weakest component to their championship odds going into the season. Like, obviously they have lots of talent, but people are really questioning how well the roster is constructed. We got Bradley Beal playing point guard next year, but now they've kind of rounded out the DeAndre Ayton situation into more depth, which ultimately adds, as we talked about, flexibility. And I think their odds as a championship contender this season have definitely gone up after this trade, like without a doubt, even though Nurkic is definitely a step back adding Grayson Allen, Lillard, and Keon Johnson, who is allegedly a good defender, I guess. It seems like it's going to work to me. Maybe the Suns versus Bucks in the finals is not quite inevitable, but highly likely.
I still don't necessarily see the Suns coming out of the West. I just think
definitely
that this was
not
a
over the
good
Nuggets.
trade for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still have the Nuggets as the favorite, and there are other teams in the West that I'm like.
So
might
why
be
don't we?
better than the Suns.
Why don't we go ahead and end on that? Yeah, right there, the chat. Let's talk about. Seems like a lot of people, and I'm definitely in this camp, feel like the Bucks definitely win the East, barring injuries, and the Nuggets definitely win the West, barring injuries. Who wins that final series, though?
I think there's a lot of unknowns. Like, we kind of know what we're getting with the Bucks because their roster's so old, but the Nuggets are banking more on contributions from guys that we haven't really been able to see a ton of yet. And like, they're also, some of these guys, we're wondering if their production is going to scale with more minutes and higher usage. Like guys like Christian Braun, who I think Christian Braun's a very, very good player, but he's going to have a bigger role this year. And how much is that going to hold up over the course of an entire season, over the course of another deep playoff run? I think a lot of the guys that they're banking on are up to the challenge, but that's not always guaranteed.
Yeah. I think it'll be a classic series one way or the other. And that's an insane amount of talent to have in one series. That's 3 basically top 10 guys and 1 finals.
And Chris Middleton.
And Chris Middleton. And Jamal Murray, which is probably the more important thing. But
is it?
Yes.
I kid.
I mean, Jamal Murray played better in this previous postseason than I think Chris Middleton has in any of them. Maybe that's blasphemous to Alex, but
I mean, you're right. Fair. You just didn't have to say it. That was like an unnecessary thing to say.
I think the
player that
weakness...
has had one of the greatest playoff performances in the history of the NBA is better in the playoffs than Chris Middleton.
Well, Rudy brought it up.
Yeah, you're right.
Rudy brought it up.
You'll make me feel good at my job. I think the only hole in the Bucks roster that could maybe keep them from overcoming the Nuggets is the backup point guard spot. I mean, are we going to see any Jason Kidd-esque lineups with Giannis at freaking point guard again? Because they do not have any backup point guard play at all.
I think they could maybe solve that issue. Do they have anything in terms of draft capital? Did they fuck themselves with the Stepien rule with these future picks, or can they trade a 2024 first?
They got Ty Washington.
Ooh.
It's probably not going to help them too much, but
because there is a pretty good backup point guard market right now, because you got Tyus Jones and Monte Morris, who you could conceivably land. Depends how much the Pistons are attached to Monte Morris, but
I don't know, man. I think the Wizards are building around Tyus Jones. I don't think he's available. Real quick,
it'd be a very Wizards thing to do, to build around Tyus Jones. So maybe you're right.
Purest point guard of all time. I want to address this fiver that Matix, I don't know, looks like Matrix without the R, gave us $5, and I appreciate that very much. Said, how do you guys reckon the likelihood of Philly shipping Harden in a trade to get Jrue? We already talked a little bit about Philly acquiring Jrue, but not necessarily from the perspective of rerouting Harden somewhere else, like Matix expresses here in this chat.
Obviously, this is a 3-team deal. If that were to happen, but I think if they're, as Alex alluded to earlier, the whole just doing what you can with cap space, I would rather get some sort of draft capital if you can, or just completely lose Harden altogether, whatever it may take, and then just have that salary cap available. But also that's something you would probably want to run by Joel Embiid, because maybe if he has the lack of patience for that future plan, then just get him Jrue Holiday to stage him and make him not too angry. But I don't know. Philly is a rough situation. I'm trying to find the positive way out, and it's just not really there.
Yeah, it's possible. Like, there's a lot of gymnastics with the cap that they would have to go through to get this done. But I mean, I just don't see how it helps Philly that much more. Like, yes, in theory, you're getting more defense, but you're going to lose a lot on offense. It's like they don't need to be making like semi-lateral moves like this. They need to do something bigger or just wait.
Exactly. I think that's exactly it. Jrue Holiday is not a big enough needle mover to like be worthy of putting that much of an effort into getting him.
Right.
It's crazy that Jrue Holiday peaked making that steal in the finals a few years ago. That was the moment it started going downhill.
I mean, there are people who peak a lot worse than that. They don't get to have an iconic NBA Finals play.
Right. No, it's a great time to peak. But let's get back on topic of the Bucks championship odds. They could probably get past the Nuggets if the Nuggets have even one injury. I think this is
do we think there'd be anybody interesting on the buyout market that Milwaukee could steal?
It would depend on who's bought out.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I was going to say the obvious thing, but like normally the buyout rumors don't start heating up until like January.
Also, not to mention, like, I feel like every year there's like, maybe not every year, but there's like one buyout guy that goes to one team and they were like, ooh, that's going to make a difference. And then it doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe Kevin Love was a buyout, right?
Yeah.
I guess that mattered a little bit.
When he got
to Miami, like the Cavs bought him out. So yeah, it can matter, I guess. But it's not like Kevin Love was the real difference maker for them making a finals push or not. But it's nice to have another guy that can confidently be a 15-minute per game guy. So yeah, their depth is worrisome. But I did want to say this earlier when talking about the Bucks. If you could get like a bounce back season for Malik Beasley, that would really do you a lot. Because I mean, he's had seasons where he shot like 40% from three on like 7 attempts per game. You get that kind of shooting out there as your second best shooter, and then Dame out there as well. Like, that's a terrifying fucking offense to deal with. And then you'd still have obviously Bobby Portis is one of the best 6 men in the entire league. And you still have Pat Connaughton, who's all right. Is Joe Ingles still there? Because Joe Ingles he
played all right.
Yeah. Joe Ingles was pretty good for them, given that he's 100 and I think just had a major injury before that season.
Yeah. Don't forget about Jay Crowder, the best worst player in basketball.
Is Jay still there? I think he's not there.
Yeah. He's still listed on the roster on ESPN.com. But
no, I think he still is on the roster.
Yeah.
Maybe Jay Crowder bounce back season ?
It'd be pretty incredible.
If you tweet that, you get negative engagement.
Twitter actually takes money. And Bossman99 propaganda not allowed on X.com.
I think they confidently have 5 really good players, and then between Malik or Pat as your starting shooting guard, which is acceptable. And then hopefully, if you can just, I mean, the thing about Denver is they were essentially running like a 7.5-man rotation on their way to a title. And I think the overall talent of Milwaukee, as they are right now, is a little bit more in terms of depth of talent than the Nuggets have. So it's possible to scrape by. Oh, he went to Orlando.
Yeah, Joe Ingles.
$10 million per year. That's crazy.
So Joe Ingles is gone.
No Joe Ingles to bank on. So yeah, you got to hope they can just get somebody to be a body. But I do think they're like just maybe 1 or 2 guys that you can bank on away from like confidently having a good enough rotation. But I mean, if you're going to play Dame and Giannis 40 minutes a game in the playoffs, it's like you can probably do fine.
Well, someone in the chat said the Bucks should sign Isaiah Thomas on a minimum.
No, they shouldn't.
Then they would have 3 30-point per game scorers on their team.
Uh-huh.
Cohen says Thunder legend Cameron Payne will be a Buck.
God, I hate Cameron Payne so much because of what he did to my team.
He would likely help them, but yes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad one.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the Blazers now. That's the only real aspect we haven't talked about very much, except for the idea of Scoot versus DeAndre, or excuse me, Scoot and DeAndre. How is this return for them compared to maybe what they could have gotten from Miami or some other destination like Toronto?
We definitely did discuss this. I said specifically.
Did we open with that?
Yeah,
I guess so. I just didn't organize my notes in a way.
I said specifically that initially my reaction to this trade was that Miami could have done better. But the more I'm thinking about it, the fact that they can probably get further assets from Jrue, the fact that they got DeAndre rather than Tyler Hero. I don't think Tyler Hero is that great. I think he's overrated by a lot of people, whereas DeAndre Ayton, I think is pretty underrated. And more importantly, like I realize when you're rebuilding, you don't want to do like the, position of need thing too much. But I feel very confident in Scoot and Anthony as their long-term guards for like at least the next 5 seasons. And at that point, Tyler Hero, like, are you trading for him to be your fucking 6th man? I don't think so. Didn't really make sense. And I understood why the Blazers didn't want him. So DeAndre in over him makes the deal better. Draft picks that they got probably would be better than what the Heat would have given them. And
that's the thing. That's the thing is I do not think Miami was going to give up unprotected first-round picks this far out and pick swaps this far out. There's just I don't think that's realistic. I doubt they would have done that.
I'll throw the last topic of conversation in here. Pat Riley washed ? Washed at the ripe old age of 80-something.
I mean, he did like snap through the trade deadline last season or maybe the season before. So if that doesn't sound like being 80 and washed, then I don't know what does. Not to mention
Seems
Dame.
Crazy to call an 80-year-old man washed.
Just finally, Pat Riley's reign over the NBA is over.
All I'll say about Pat Riley is this: I think the Heat overplayed their hand like crazy here.
Yeah, they definitely seemed a little too confident that no matter what, Dame was ending up in Miami. And it's like, man, you're going to let Nikola Jovic be the difference between whether or not you get Damian Lillard. Grow the fuck up. That's just dumb. This happens often with fucking like superstar trade negotiations. Stop getting hung up on these fucking bums or okay players. Like I remember back when James Harden was in Houston and he was trying to get traded to Philly. Philly didn't do the move because of Matisse Thybulle. Are you fucking kidding me? Like when we're talking about these top guys, getting those dudes is the most important priority. You throw all caution to the wind, or at least most of it, in that regard, and the fear of Nikola Jovic maybe breaking out in a few years, you gotta let that shit go, man. It's worth the very real title odds that you now do not have because you allowed Dame to go to your biggest threat in the conference.
Yeah. I think the Heat are done. Like, unless they make a phenomenal run just like last season where they make 75% of their threes and, get really lucky in the play-in tournament.
It's like the underdog shit is cute. It's cute. Really enjoy it. It's fun stuff. But if we're talking about actually winning a fucking title, get serious and put your big boy pants on and trade for Damian Lillard, you fucking dipshits. And they didn't do that.
How does the Heat's top 3 players compare to the Bucks' top 3 players? We got is Hero their third best player?
Tyler Hero's their third best player.
It's not even close. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's not even in the same realm.
Yeah.
You have 2 top 10 players with Dame and Giannis, and then a guy who is maybe still capable of playing at a fringe all-star level in Chris Middleton. And then you have Jimmy, who's like, you can argue, yes, in the playoffs, you can argue he's a top 10 player, top 15 at minimum during the regular season. And then Bam, Bam's fantastic, DPOY candidate basically every year, top 20, 25 player. And then Tyler Hero, really, that just doesn't even, it's not on the same level. It's not even close to the same level.
I don't think there's a chance they would even beat Boston, let alone the Bucks.
Yeah. So who in the East does stand the best chance against these Bucks? Because
Boston.
It just Boston straight up. No one else.
Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
Yeah. Their top duo, like you said, the Jays, just doesn't even compare either. I'm thinking that if the Bucks win it all this year, we're already going to be hearing conversations about Dame and Giannis as an all-time duo. Someone in the chat way earlier said the second coming of Kobe and Shaq. I don't know about all that, but they did point out that both guys average over 31 points a game last season.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to imagine a world, especially if you don't scale to eras, you know what I'm saying? Like pure basketball talent-wise, that this could be one of the best duos of all time. Top 5 is reasonable.
Dame as well. He's 32, I think. 33 maybe. But I expect his game to age solidly. And I could see a world where I'm not betting on this because it's a very difficult thing to bet on. But if this team won three-peated, wouldn't be insane to me personally. Because we're talking about a team that's perennially competing for championships that just added a way better player than anything Giannis has ever had before.
Yeah, I still have concerns about the depth, but on paper, it's going to be
and especially
really good when those players are on the floor. Yes,
especially after this year, they'll be able to get a couple of guys on minimum contracts that are just trying to ring chase that can be rotation guys.
And even if it's not ring chasing veterans that they can sign to fill out their depth, they could just process it. Go through some 10 days, go through some exhibit contracts, just give some guys 10 minutes a game here and there and see if one pops.
Isn't Milwaukee's? There were so many head coach changes this last offseason. It's Monty Williams for the Bucks now, right?
No, it's
who is it? Nick Nurse?
Adrian
Griffin?
It's either Adrian Griffin or Adrian Dantley. I can't think.
Adrian Dantley.
So Adrian Dantley's an ex-player, I think.
Yes.
Well, Adrian Griffin is also an ex-player, I believe.
Yeah, but so is Fred Hoiberg, but we don't talk about that.
Yes, it's Adrian Griffin.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, we don't have to deal with.
We were trying to figure out which Griffin it was, and they were both former players.
Yeah,
we don't egregious about me saying Adrian Dantley. Adrian Dantley's a former player. Adrian Griffin's a former player too. What are we talking about?
No, I
the confusion there.
My confusion was I feel like I would have remembered if it was Adrian Dantley. So it's I don't think so. But whatever. Either way, you don't have to deal with the Mike Budenholzer isms, I guess. The stupid throwing a game because he doesn't want to play Giannis over 32 minutes or whatever the fuck. That kind of shit isn't going to be happening, hopefully, unless this guy's just completely incompetent. I have no idea of his coaching history. But yeah, so many former coaches of the year changed places this last year. I'm kind of mixed up on where they even are.
Yeah. And I believe Frank Vogel's a Suns guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm curious as to how much that's going to affect them. I meant to bring this up during the Suns segment, but Frank Vogel is a mixed bag as a coach.
He's a defensive coach, though, and I think I don't think there was any coach that was going to make this Suns team not just constant isolations. So you might as well just get a coach in there that's defensive minded and can hopefully get a lot more defensively out of that personnel than most coaches could. And then just let them take the offense where they have to take it themselves.
Apparently, Terry Stotts is an assistant in Milwaukee.
That's not good because he's bad, but cool.
He might not be good
No,
as a head coach, but I believe he has a little bit of proficiency as an
I
offensive
don't.
mind.
There were. I don't know if there's any coach who has had a less justified long tenure with the team than Terry Stotts with Portland. Like they needed to fire him like 6 years before they did.
I wonder how Dame is going to feel about reuniting.
I mean, he was the reason that he was there. Like because Dame didn't want Terry Stotts gone, they weren't going to get rid of him, even though they should have. That's honestly very often throughout Dame's tenure in Portland, he held them back because he was so in control of everything. That's why like letting the players have that much control is like kind of a downside. I understand why you want to appease to your best players' interests, but you also don't want to just make wrong decisions because that's what the player wants.
Yeah. I mean, we can't all have Sam Presti, running the organization. Can't all be a Zach Kleinman. So sometimes you got to let the player run the show.
I think we've covered all of our bases. This is looking at the viewership. This has to be our biggest podcast ever.
Yeah, we had like 711 concurrent at our peak, I believe. Shout out to everyone in the stream right now. Please leave a like on the stream as we close it out here. It would help the pod perform significantly better. And yeah,
really appreciate you guys showing up. This is fun.
Thank you all.